Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here. Sorry, bottom of my chewing gum. It's your boy M.K.S here back again finally with part 3 of my ideas about how to empower Indigenous people across the Americas. Have you checked out parts 1 and 2? If you haven't done so already, please check them out, and I hope you'll enjoy them, and I hope you'll enjoy this, of course, as you may imagine. I was actually thinking of leaving this till tomorrow, which would be a day later than planned, but I thought that I'd rather get it out of the way, and I was going to write my ideas on paper, but I kind of had a bit of writer's block, so I thought I'd get on with this listing it out of the way, then at least I've sort of reached my goals. But yeah, so today obviously being, well, I say obviously, but today being the last day in September, I'm hoping to finish off all my projects which I have for Indigenous people of the Americas. I'm a bit behind with my goals, so I might discuss some things about Indigenous people of the Americas in October, but most likely I'm going to try and focus as much as I can, which I hope to talk about tomorrow. That's why I came back online, because I was going to try and do all my paperwork instead, or my writing on paper and all that. But anyway, I'm hoping to stick to the global Black diaspora, empowering the global Black diaspora, especially people from Africa and Black British, because it's Black History Month here in the UK. So anyway, yeah, so I'm going to try and focus on like Black business people, politics, politicians, and all that sort of stuff. But whatever ideas I have for Indigenous people in the Americas could probably be applied to the global Black diaspora, especially people from Africa or Australasia, like the Aborigines and Maoris, and vice versa. But anyway, here goes. So as I continue on my list, I'm going to try and crack on with the list. I don't want the video to be too long, as I have to say. So number 21. I'll say this is a list continuing on from parts 1 and 2 for those who haven't seen it. I haven't really learnt a huge amount about Indigenous people of the Americas and their history and their culture. That I don't think that I probably didn't know before. I kind of learned that they have a community that already has business people and writers and artists that I didn't know existed before, and also that I probably already knew this, but I know they have their own kind of cultural dances and music. As I probably already knew a bit about that, but hopefully next year I'll learn a lot more about and be a bit more patient to actually listen and learn. But that's the main thing, I think, is to listen to Indigenous people in terms of talking about their empowerment, listen to what sort of goals they have and aspirations, which may not be financial. They may well be about talking about their culture and history. And I think of this controversial idea where I use like red notebooks and pens and that sort of thing to represent Indigenous people of the Americas. So I hope they don't mind that, because if you are an Indigenous person from the Americas, I hope you don't mind. But like, I know they're not really red, so to speak, or whatever. But after all, it is to empower them. So hopefully they'll see that that's taken a negative and hopefully make it into a positive. But yeah, so like this notebooks with a red cover like this one talk about my Indigenous empowerment of the ideas for the empowerment of the Indigenous people using red notebooks, and possibly in red ink and things like that, and red symbolizing, as I say, what they were called historically. So I say hope that they don't mind me using that term. And also, like, I'm thinking like there's black and red notebooks, and I'm thinking of writing about how Black and Indigenous people from America, Black people around the world and Indigenous people of America, but of America, could perhaps work together to support each other as professionals and support each other to learn about those things I've talked about before, like STEM, becoming inventors, writing, becoming writers, becoming artists and poets, and expressing themselves and empowering themselves. So I hope that all made sense. Again, hope if you are an Indigenous person from the Americas, you won't find me using the term red or red notebooks or red ink or things like that to represent Indigenous people in the Americas, as I say, because after all, it is to empower Indigenous people in the Americas. So hopefully it's turning a negative stereotype or a negative thing into a positive. And as I say, like black and red notebooks, I don't know if everyone's seen like notebooks that are called black and red, but I dream to like write in those in the future, maybe next year, to talk about excuse me, about Black and Indigenous people from the Americas in those fields. And I hope to give them to these notebooks and talk about my ideas and what they mean, what I wrote on these notebooks as like presents for people who are either black or indigenous, or in some cases both, or whatever, where they could share it. And again, like encouraging more to become professionals. So moving on, number 22, so support them in those areas I've talked about, like women, writers, entrepreneurs, poets, politicians, and being able to express themselves through dance and listening to Indigenous people, as I said before, both men and women, really. But yeah, so to encourage, as I say, and hear stories from Indigenous women writers and to promote their artwork. And in the future, again, I'd love to send like plain notebooks or plain paper, like what people normally use for printers, that sort of paper. I'll say plain paper, or sometimes unlined paper that doesn't have lines, if you know what I mean. But sometimes in different colors, and like give them crayons or felt tips where they can use it to have more free stuff to write to do their art and things like that, and possibly also notebooks and things like that in the future. Whereas I'm normally quite stingy on my notebooks, so I hope they'll appreciate that. But yeah, some of them will have my ideas on, some of them might be plain or blank. 23, I'd love to do as much fundraising as possible. Again, like this year, I didn't really plan it, or I didn't really manage to do as well as possible, or have the energy or enthusiasm quite that I wanted to. But although I made a few videos, I didn't manage to plan like fundraising ideas as much as I'd like. So I hope to do that a bit better next year in July, and hopefully also like for other groups before then. Number 24, again, like I'd love to, as I've said before, like I'd love to unite Indigenous people around the Americas, and possibly people of color generally. And I think when we work together, we're much stronger. We can achieve much more when we work together and pull together, come together as one, and just support each other. So yeah, I'd love for Indigenous people to especially unite with each other, and possibly with Indigenous people from Australasia as well, and Africa and Asia, and also like Latin Americans and people from Ireland, those other groups I've talked about supporting before. But just generally, like as many allies as possible to support them as well, such as friends of the Indigenous people of the Americas. Number 25, in the future, again, I'd love to have like, as I've talked about being excuse me, an Italian football fan, as weird as that might be, because like, in spite of being an anti-imperialist, I've talked about some of the reasons why I'm an Italian football fan. But I love for teams like AC Milan, or Italian football teams generally, especially AC Milan, who play in black and red, to have football academies across the Americas, especially for Indigenous people, as well as in Africa and other places, and Indigenous people in the Americas as well. To have like football or soccer, if you like, or calcio in Italian, football academies to develop young players in those. I wonder if it would be feasible to have academies, football academies, or maybe even like soccer academies that are in America already, and maybe more Indigenous people could be encouraged to go into those, and maybe like more support for them to get into sport. Again, that could be another thing to fundraise for. Number 26, I think I've talked about the reasons to support Indigenous people from the Americas, and hopefully that'll push people, as I say, especially anti-imperialists or people of colour, which I think should be anti-imperialists in my opinion, and Irish people, which already do kind of support Indigenous people in America to an extent, but hopefully more will be encouraged to support Indigenous people from around the world, and not even just people of colour, maybe even people from the UK or from England and Scotland and Wales and places like that as well, obviously if they want to support them. Number 27, again, I love big companies to invest in Indigenous peoples of the Americas, in teaching about STEM, inventing things, and other areas which I've talked about, empowering them. And maybe there could be tax deals, again, like the government could offer tax deals for doing so. And generally, as I've said before, again, there could be like a list of the top people who have contributed to the Indigenous communities, and the ways in which they've contributed, whether that's financial or in terms of educating people, or like in STEM or things like that, or teachers who have gone out their way to support Indigenous peoples from the Americas. So maybe their own community could acknowledge and have like its own award service or ceremonies, so they could talk about people who have supported them the most and like honor them. Number 28, yeah, hopefully in July I'll have learned as much as possible from this year and improve as I go along, and hopefully turn Native American situations into a positive. I was a bit demotivated today, so I think it's good that I'm hopefully going to finish this video, obviously, unless something terrible happens, which hopefully won't, obviously. But yeah, so I think it's a good thing that I did actually manage to do this video, which I wasn't sure I was going to get done today, but I was going to do tomorrow, but that means one less thing to do for tomorrow. Number 29, again, I'd love for people of colour and generally as many people as possible to support Indigenous people of the Americas, and I hope that in the future more people will be encouraged to support them. And number 30, I'd love to hear from you guys about any ideas you have, anyone watching this video, especially to the end. So please don't hold back any ideas that you have that you think could help Indigenous people in the Americas. Anyway, sorry if I was waffling, and I'm out. Peace and love.